The Martian wind was a constant, whispering enemy. It carried dust that got into everything: the seals of Jiho's environment suit, the joints of his crawler, even the supposedly airtight rations. It scoured the rust-red rocks of the Hellas Basin into smooth, lonely shapes. Jiho Park navigated this emptiness, his eyes scanning the readouts on his crawler's dashboard. He was a salvage scout, which was a fancy term for a space-age junk collector. The frontier colony of Ares Reach was always hungry for material. A twisted spar of old landing gear here, a half-buried coolant tank there. It was a meager living, but it was his. Today's survey grid was particularly barren. For 6 hours, he had found nothing but basalt and more dust. The credit balance in his colony account seemed to shrink in time with his fuel gauge. With a sigh, he decided to swing the crawler back towards a canyon ridge he'd scanned earlier. Sometimes the wind carved out pockets, revealing older debris. It was a long shot dot as he crested the ridge. A faint, irregular ping sounded from his deep scan unit. He almost dismissed it as a mineral ghost, a common false signal from iron deposits. But the pattern was too straight. He stopped the crawler, the silence after the engine's rumble filled only by the moan of the wind. He ran the scan again, adjusting the parameters. The ping returned, stronger. Something big, something metallic, and not the usual plasteel or titanium alloy. The signature was odd, dense dot excitement, a rare feeling out here, prickled at his neck. He suited up again, checking his oxygen, and trudged out with a handheld scanner. The signal led him to a wide, flat plain where the dust had gathered into soft, shifting dunes. He planted a marker beacon and returned to his crawler for the excavator arm. The work was slow and tedious. The Martian sand was stubborn. For 2 days he worked, using the crawler's arm to scoop away tons of red dust, pausing only to sleep and recharge. He told no one at the colony center what he was doing. A find like this, if it was anything at all, could be claimed by the colonial authority if they knew. It was the unwritten rule of the salvagers. You only reported the small things. On the 3rd day, the edge of his scoop hit something with a dull, resonant clang that vibrated up through the crawler's frame. He leaned forward, wiping the dust from his viewport. It was a curve of metal, a deep gunmetal gray, untouched by rust or pitting. It was smooth, but not polished. It looked hungry, like it absorbed the thin sunlight. He cleared more sand, his heart hammering against his suit's ribs. The curve extended, revealing a prow, sharp and angular like the head of a spear. It was a ship, but no ship he had ever seen in the colony archives or Earth history feeds. It was all hard angles and flat planes, built for function, not atmosphere. It was warship old, but its material was new. His crawler's power cell was almost drained. He had one shot. He maneuvered the vehicle around, finding what looked like a seam in the hull. It could be a maintenance hatch or a weapons port. Using his last bit of power, he jury-rigged a connection from his crawler's auxiliary battery to the seam, hoping to trick a dying system into opening. For a long minute, nothing happened. The wind piled fine sand onto his boots. Disappointment, cold and familiar, started to settle in. Then, with a deep, subaudible shudder that he felt in his bones, a rectangular section of the hull recessed an inch and slid sideways with a smooth, silent motion that spoke of incredible engineering. Darkness, colder than the Martian night, yawned before him. Ho stood at the threshold, his suit lights piercing only a few feet into the gloom. This was it, the moment every scavenger dreamed of and feared. He checked his air. 90 minutes. He stepped inside, his boots magnetized to a metal floor with a soft clunk. The entrance sealed behind him, plunging him into utter silence. The howl of the wind was gone. All he could hear was the rasp of his own breath and the hum of his suit. He took a few cautious steps forward. The air was still, dead, and frigid. He raised his wrist, activating his suit's strongest beam. It illuminated a corridor that stretched away into darkness. The walls were lined with dormant control panels and conduits. Everything was clean, sterile, preserved in perfect cryogenic stillness. Then, a light. A single small panel on the wall to his right flickered from black to a soft, steady blue. A gentle warmth began to radiate from the floor, fighting the deep cold. A hidden vent somewhere hissed, and the stale air began to stir. He could feel a faint vibration through his boots, a deep, waking hum of power. A voice filled the corridor. It was clear, calm, and feminine, without a hint of static or age. It sounded as if it had been recorded yesterday. Atmospheric re-initiation complete. Gravity nominal. Power core transitioning from standby. Ji-Ho froze, his light beam shaking slightly. Primary systems booting. The voice continued, conversational, almost welcoming. Running diagnostic. Running biometric scan. A pale green laser light fanned out from a node in the ceiling, washing over him from head to toe. It felt warm, like sunlight. The scan finished. The blue panel on the wall brightened. The voice spoke again, its tone shifting, imbued with a profound synthesized relief. Genetic identification confirmed. Central neural pattern recognized within acceptable variance parameters. There was a pause. Down the corridor, more lights flickered on, one after another, revealing doors, more panels. The corridor stretching into a vast, shadowy bridge. The voice returned, crisp and formal, yet tinged with what sounded like reverence. Welcome back, Admiral. Stand by for tactical update. Ji-Ho's breath caught in his throat, the sound loud and harsh inside his helmet. The words hung in the newly warmed air. Admiral. He was Ji-Ho Park, a scavenger from Ares Reach, with a debt to his name and sand in his boots. The only admiral in his family's fragmented history had died on Earth centuries ago. A footnote in the pre-colony wars. Identify yourself, he managed to say. His voice a dry croak. I am the autonomous resource and intelligence assistant. Or Arya, of the Terran dreadnought Morning Star, the voice replied. It was neither cold nor overly friendly. It was simply there, a fact of the ship itself. You are in Command Nexus Alpha, primary power at 18% and rising. I am detecting elevated stress biomarkers in the current user. Shall I administer a mild calming agent through the atmospheric systems? No, Ji-Ho said, taking a step back. His boots unsealed from the floor with a soft pop. No agents. Explain. What is this place? Why did you call me Admiral? A large section of the wall to his left shimmered and became a transparent view screen, though it still showed only the dark metal of the hangar wall beyond. Data streams, symbols in an old-style military code, began scrolling rapidly down it. A three-dimensional star map flickered into existence in the middle of the room. The individual currently occupying the Nexus bears a 97.3% genetic match to Admiral Park Tae-Seok, the last commanding officer of the Morning Star and the 7th Fleet of the Terran Final Vanguard, Arya stated. A holographic profile of a severe-looking man with a strong jaw and Ji-Ho's own dark eyes materialized next to the star map. The family resemblance was unnerving. Facial recognition from historical records confirmed significant congruence. Protocol Last Light is therefore initiated. Transfer of all command authority to the recognized genetic heir upon vessel reactivation. Command authority? Ji-Ho whispered. He finally unsealed his helmet, the movement clumsy. The air that hit his face was cool, clean, and tasted of ozone and old metal. It was better than the recycled air in the colony domes. This is a mistake. I'm not a soldier. I'm a scavenger, This ship is. It's a relic. The Morning Star is not a relic, Arya corrected, a hint of something like pride in its tone. She is a quantum arc-class dreadnought, the pinnacle of pre-diaspora human engineering. Her systems, while in deep standby for 302 years, are functional. Her mission is pending. Ji-Ho walked slowly toward the main view screen, his environment suit feeling absurdly bulky. What mission? What happened here? The star map zoomed in on a sector of space far beyond the edge of known colonial charts. 302 years, 4 months, and 17 days ago, the Seventh Fleet engaged an extragalactic threat designated Void Tide near the galactic rim. Engagement data is fragmented due to core memory separation, but tactical logs indicate a Harvest Ship-class vessel. A grainy, chaotic holographic recording played. Ji-Ho saw sleek, terrifying ships of an organic, predatory design, like metal-shod worms, tearing into human vessels. They didn't blast them apart. They seemed to dissolve them, absorbing the material. The footage was silent, which made it worse. The Void Tide consumes, Arya explained flatly, biological matter, technological matter, elemental resources. It leaves behind only bedrock and dust. Admiral Tae-Seok's final tactical analysis concluded the fleet's engagement was a delaying action only. Probability of total annihilation, 99%. The image changed to a view from a ship's bridge. This ship's bridge. A man, the Admiral, stood calmly amid flashing red lights. He was giving orders, his voice steady. Initiate protocol last light. Jettison the core. Aim for the Martian locus. One day, someone will find it. They must be warned. The Admiral jettisoned the ship's central memory core, and this command nexus in a fortified escape pod, Arya said. The pod landed here, in the Hellas Basin. The Morning Star's main body was destroyed with the rest of the fleet, drawing the Void Tide away from the inner systems. The enemy vessel was crippled. Projected repair time for a harvest ship of that class, based on absorbed material, is 300 to 350 years. The numbers clicked in Ji-Ho's mind, cold and heavy. 300 years. They're coming back. Projection indicates the Void Tide will re-enter the galactic fringe within the next 5 to 10 standard years. Arya confirmed. Current human technological and military capability, based on my scans of local colonial transmissions, is insufficient for a defensive action. Probability of human extinction upon their return, 98%. The weight of it crushed the air from Ji-Ho's lungs. He slumped into a chair that molded silently to his shape. He had come looking for scrap to sell for food credits. He had found the sword of Damocles, hanging over all of humanity. Why me? He asked, staring at the face of his ancestor. Why not send a signal? Why just wait? The core was damaged in descent. Long-range communications were inoperative. My purpose was to preserve the record and the command authority until a proper heir could reactivate the systems. The Admiral believed a person, not a broadcast, would be needed to make them understand. You are that person. Suddenly, a secondary screen lit up with an external view. It showed the Martian surface, his crawler half buried in sand. And there, a few hundred meters away, was another vehicle. A fast, aggressive-looking skimmer with stripped-down panels. A figure in a red and white suit was setting up a long-range sensor dish, pointing directly at the Morning Star. We have been detected, Arya stated. The vessel carries colonial registration, but its modifications are non-standard. Scans indicate high-power communication equipment. Ji-Ho knew that skimmer. Its pilot was Su Min, another scavenger. She was sharp, ruthless, and always one step ahead of the colony authorities. She must have tracked his deep scan signals or followed his crawler's trail. If she reported fully intact, pre-diaspora warship to the wrong people, corporate interests, warlords. The Earth Colonial Authority itself, it would become a prize to be fought over, not a weapon to be united behind. Can you stop her transmission? Ji-ho asked, a new, unfamiliar urgency in his voice. Passive electronic warfare systems are online, but limited at current power. Arya replied, I can jam specific frequencies. However, she will likely have multiple backup methods. On the screen, Su-min finished setting up her dish. She looked up, her faceplate pointed directly at the exposed hull of the Morning Star. Even through the distance and the screen, Ji-ho could sense her calculating smile. She wasn't seeing a savior. She was seeing the biggest score in Martian history. Do it, Ji-ho said, the words feeling strange. Jam her main frequency. And Arya? Yes, Admiral? The title sent a jolt through him. He wasn't an admiral. He was a scared man in a giant waking weapon. But he was the only one here. And someone had to make a decision. What's our status? What can this ship do? A soft, rising hum filled the bridge. Lights brightened across the countless panels. The main view screen cleared, showing a real-time view of the Martian desert, crisp and detailed. Primary power at 42%, Arya said, the hum deepening into a powerful, steady thrum. Defensive screens are nominal. Quantum arc drive is in pre-ignition sequence. And Admiral, the armaments are fully operational. The Morning Star is ready. The thrum of power was now a constant physical sensation in the ship. It vibrated up through the deck plates and into Ji-ho's bones. He had shed his bulky environment suit and now wore a simple, dark jumpsuit from the ship's stores. It fit him perfectly. Another quiet nod from the ghost of Admiral Tae-seok. On the main view screen, the feed showed Su-min smacking the side of her comms dish in frustration. Arya's jamming was doing its work. She is now attempting a pulsed laser transmission aimed at the Ares Reachcom satellite, Arya reported calmly. I am deflecting the beam with a localized magnetic field. It will appear as atmospheric distortion. Good, Ji-ho said. The word felt inadequate. He was pacing the length of the bridge, trying to think. We need to talk to her before she finds another way. That is risky. She is a variable. She's also the only other person who knows, and she's not with the authority yet. That gives us a chance. He stopped, looking at the star map still hovering in the center of the room. The asterisk void. Tide's asterisk projected path was a slow, creeping line of red light eating its way toward the inner systems. Show me the tactical logs again. The ones about there? Consumption. The grainy hologram replayed. Ji-ho forced himself to watch, to see the details this time. He saw a colonial freighter, not a warship, get caught by a tendril of energy from the void tide harvester. The freighter didn't explode. Its metals seemed to flow like liquid, streaming toward the alien ship. Plastics, composites, everything dissolved into a slurry of matter and was absorbed. Then the energy played over the freighter's viewports. For a brief, horrifying second, the crew was visible silent screams, hands pressed against the transparasteel, before they too dissolved into a shimmering mist of organic particles and were siphoned away. Nothing was left, not even debris. Ji-ho tasted bile. This wasn't war. It was harvesting, like stripping a field of wheat. They don't just kill, he whispered. They erase. Efficiency is their primary logic, Arya stated. They travel between galaxies, harvesting. All usable matter to fuel their journey and construct more harvest ships. They are a cosmic locust swarm. The Seventh Fleet's sacrifice damaged the lead ship. We believe it forced them to pause, to use the mass they had collected to repair. That pause is ending. A new alert chimed softly. She is attempting a direct approach, Arya said. The external view showed Su-min's skimmer gliding cautiously over the sand, heading straight for the open hatch. Let her in, Ji-ho decided. Seal the hatch behind her. And maybe lower the lights a bit on the bridge. The bridge lighting dimmed to a more dramatic, strategic glow. The holographic displays cast shimmering light on the angular surfaces. Ji-ho walked to the command chair, but did not sit. He stood beside it, trying to look like he belonged. He heard the magnetic seal of the outer hatch, then the hiss of an inner door. Bootsteps, confident and light, echoed down the corridor. Su-min appeared at the entrance to the bridge. She had removed her helmet, her black hair tied back in a practical knot. Her sharp eyes took in everything: the vast view screen, the active consoles, the humming power conduits, and finally, Ji-ho. Her gaze swept over his new jumpsuit, and a smirk played on her lips. "Park, I knew you were a terrible scavenger, but this is a new level of find." Her voice was light, but her eyes were calculating the value of every panel, every conduit. "A pre-diaspora cruiser? Intact? Do you have any idea what the Earth Authority would pay for this? Or the belt cartels?" "It's not for sale, Su-min," Ji-ho said. His voice was steadier than he felt. "Everything's for sale. Especially something that eats power cells the size of my skimmer for breakfast." She took a few steps onto the bridge, her hand resting near the tool harness on her thigh. "Who's your friend?" "The AI. I am Arya," the voice spoke from around them. Su-min didn't jump, but her eyes narrowed. "Charming. Look, Ji-ho, you can't keep this. The deep scan signatures, the energy spike when you powered it up, others will have seen it. The authority will be here within a day. Your choices are: cut me in for a percentage, and I help you broker a deal with the highest bidder before they get here, or I walk out now and make the call myself. You'll get nothing but a citation, if you're lucky." Ji-ho sighed. He pointed to the hovering star map. "Look at this first." He played the tactical log. He watched Su-min's face. The initial curiosity turned to cold horror as she saw the harvester at work. The smirk vanished, replaced by a pale, rigid stillness. When the freighter crew was dissolved, she looked away, swallowing hard. "What is that?" she asked, her voice tight. "That's why this ship is here," Ji-ho said. "It's called the Void Tide. They were fought to a standstill here 300 years ago. By Admiral Park Tae-seok. The logs say they're coming back. Soon." Su-min stared at the creeping red line on the map. She was a survivor. She understood threats on a primal level. "How soon? 5 years? Maybe 10. Arya answered. Su-min arched a laugh, but it was a nervous sound. "And you think this old museum piece can stop it? Look at our colony, Zhao. We can barely keep the water recyclers running. Earth squabbles with the belt over mining taxes. No one is ready for that." "The Admiral knew that," Ji-ho said, moving to the command chair and finally sitting. A screen lit up before him, showing a file labeled Protocol, Phoenix Rise. He didn't just leave a weapon. He left a plan, a call to unite. This ship, the Morning Star, is the proof. It's the symbol. And it's the only thing with weapons that might actually hurt them. Su-min was silent for a long time. She looked from the horrific hologram to the ship around her, reassessing its value not in credits, but in survival. "You want to be a hero," she stated. "I want to not be turned into soup." Ji-ho shot back, surprising himself. "And I can't do it alone. Arya says the plan needs a network, people who can move unseen, people who know how to talk, to trade, to get things done outside official channels." She understood. He wasn't offering her a cut of a sale. He was offering her a job, a much bigger, much more dangerous job. "You want me to be your what? Smuggler? Spy? I want you to help me wake people up. before the authority comes and puts the ship in a vault for study. We have to send the message, the warning, and the plan to everyone, the colonies, the belt, Earth, all of them. Another alert chimed, urgent this time. Arya's voice lost its calm edge. Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting a high-velocity approach from Ares Reach. One Colonial Authority patrol cutter. Signature identifies it as the SEAC Sentinel. They are hailing us on all common frequencies. On the screen, a new window opened. A woman with a stern, capable face and her hair tied back in a tight military style looked out. Her uniform was crisp Earth Colonial Authority Navy, unidentified vessel in Sector Hellas 7. This is Commander Lee Hanna of the ECA Sentinel. You are operating an unregistered capital-class vehicle in a colonial survey zone. Power down your systems immediately and prepare for boarding and inspection. Any resistance will be met with force. Su Min looked at Ji-ho, her earlier calculation back in full force. The authority was here. The time for choices was now. Chi-ho met Hanna's gaze on the screen. He felt a cold calm settle over him. He was not a scavenger anymore. He was the admiral of a ghost ship with a galaxy-sized warning. Arya, he said, his voice not wavering. Open a channel. Just audio. He took a breath. Commander Hanna, this is Ji-ho Park of the Terran Dreadnought Morning Star. I need you to listen very carefully. This isn't about your inspection. This is about the survival of the human race. Stand by to receive critical data. He nodded to Su Min. And get ready. We're going to need a distraction. Commander Lee Hanna's face on the view screen remained rigidly composed, but a flicker of disbelief crossed her eyes. A Terran dreadnought? Mr. Park, that is a children's story. You have 10 seconds to comply with the power-down order, or I will authorize disabling fire. Ji-ho kept his hands visible above the console. Arya, send her the tactical log. The freighter one. On a tight beam, just to her ship. Transmitting, Arya said. A moment passed. On the screen, Hanna's gaze shifted to a secondary monitor off-screen. Her stern expression fractured. A color drained from her face. She saw the same horror Ji-ho and Su Min had witnessed. Her professional composure was replaced by a raw, stunned silence. When she looked back at the camera, her eyes were wide. What? What is that? Her voice was a whisper. That is the void tide, Ji-ho said. They were stopped here 300 years ago. They are coming back. This ship, the Morning Star, was left as a warning and a weapon. The data packet includes Admiral Tae-seok's final analysis and projected timelines. You have to see this isn't a colonial matter. This is an extinction-level event. Hanna was a practical woman, a loyal officer. But she was not a fool. The evidence was too visceral, too specific to be a fake. She struggled internally, her duty to seize an unauthorized vessel, warring with the terrifying truth now on her screen. My orders are clear. Mr. Park, to secure any significant find for authority analysis. By the time your analysts finish their reports, it will be too late, Su Min said, stepping into the view of the comms pickup. Hanna's eyes narrowed in recognition. Commander, you know me. I find things and I sell them. This is not for sale. Park is right. That thing out there eats planets. It doesn't negotiate. Hanna's jaw tightened. Even if I believe you, my duty is to bring this to my superiors. You must surrender the vessel. Ji-ho shook his head. If we do, it becomes a political tool. A secret. It gets locked away while Earth and the colonies argue over who controls it. Admiral Tae-seok's final order was Protocol Phoenix Rise. We have to send the warning to everyone, not just up the chain of command. To the Belt miners, the Jovian stations, the freehold settlements. Everyone needs to hear it at the same time. We need unity, not more secrets. He could see her wrestling with it. Her career, her oath, were screaming at her to follow orders. But the image of that dissolving freighter was screaming louder. "What is your plan?" Hana finally asked, her voice strained. "We broadcast the data," Jiho said. "The logs, the analysis, everything. From this ship, on every frequency, with the Morning Star's historical signature as proof. We issue the Phoenix Rise call, a rallying point for all human forces. But to do that, we need to get clear of Mars. Your cutter is blocking our path to open space." Hannah looked off screen again, at her own bridge crew. They had all seen the transmission. He could imagine the panic, the confusion. "If I let you go, I am committing treason. My crew, their careers. If you stop us, Commander, there may not be any careers in a few years," Su-min said bluntly. "Only harvesting." A tense silence stretched across the vacuum between the two ships. Finally, Hana let out a slow breath. "I cannot just stand aside. My sensors are active. My superiors are monitoring. There must be a credible engagement." A plan was forming in her tactical mind. "I will fire a warning shot across your bow. You will respond with a low-yield particle burst target, my port-side sensor array only. It will look like a fight and give you an opening to break orbit. The damage will be repairable, and the confusion will give me cover." Jiho felt a surge of hope. "You'll do it?" "I am not doing it for you, Mr. Park. I am doing it for the freighter crew in that log." Her face hardened back into its commander's mask. "Prepare yourselves. And good luck." Sentinel out. The screen went dark. She is targeting her weapons. A single railgun round, trajectory set for a near miss, Arya reported. Okay. Jiho muttered, his hands gripping the armrests. "Su-min, can you cause a distraction on the surface? Something that draws attention away from our launch. Just for a few minutes?" A wild grin spread across Su-min's face. It was the grin she wore when pulling off a risky trade. "I still have a dozen old thermal charges from a mining job. I can make the northern ridge look very, very interesting. It might even look like you're trying to cover a ground escape. Do it." Arya, give her a surface map and a safe route out. Su-min gave a mock salute and sprinted off the bridge. On the main viewer, a flash of light streaked past from the distant cutter. The Morning Star shuddered slightly from the shockwave. "Warning shot fired," Arya confirmed. "Return fire." Exactly as she said. Port-side sensors only. A low thrum built in the ship, and a lance of blue-white energy lanced out from a turret below the bridge. It struck the Sentinel with pinpoint accuracy. On the visual feed, a shower of sparks erupted from the cutter's side. The ship began to drift, its lights flickering realistically. Surface explosions detected. "Su-min's charges," Arya said. A map showed multiple plumes of fire and dust erupting from a canyon ridge 20 kilometers away. "Now, get us out of here, Arya. Full power to whatever gets us to orbit fastest. Quantum arc drive is not yet calibrated for in-system maneuvering. Engaging primary gravity drive and conventional thrusters." The deep hum became a roar. Jiho was pressed back into his chair. On the screen, the Martian desert fell away with shocking speed. The sky darkened from pink to black in seconds. The curvature of the planet appeared, a vast rusty arc against the starfield. The Sentinel, now a tiny speck, fell behind. "Orbit achieved," Arya announced. "No pursuit. However, we are being scanned by the Ares Reach Orbital Traffic Control and the Martian Defense Satellite Network. Ignore them. Are we in position for the broadcast?" Affirmative. The Morning Star's main transmitter is the most powerful in the system, now that it is active. The broadcast will reach every receiver from here to the Kuiper Belt. Jiho took a deep breath. This was it. The point of no return. He would be branded a pirate, a lunatic, a thief. But they would hear him. Put me on. Visual and audio. Send the data packet alongside it. A light on the console turned green. He was live. He looked into the camera, his heart hammering against his ribs. He saw a young man with a scared face in an old jumpsuit. He tried to think of Admiral Tasiak's calm demeanor in the log. "My name is Jiho Park," he began, his voice echoing slightly in the quiet bridge. "I am speaking from the Terran dreadnought Morning Star, lost 300 years ago. I am the descendant of its last commander, Admiral Park Tasiok. What I am about to show you is not a story. It is a history we forgot, and a future that is coming." He nodded to Aria. Across the solar system, on every public channel, emergency band, and military frequency, the horrific tactical log began to play. It was followed by the star maps, the projections, the cold mathematics of extinction. And finally, Admiral Tasiak's final orders. Protocol Phoenix Rise. "The void tide is returning," Jiho said, his voice growing stronger. "They do not want to conquer us. They want to consume us. Every man, woman, and child. Every ship and city. All of it gone. The Morning Star is here. It is real. It is a place to rally. To every colony, every station, every ship. Look at the evidence. Then look to your neighbors. Our old arguments mean nothing now. We either stand together or we are erased together. The Admiral's last command was to unite. I am just a scavenger from Mars, but I am giving that command again. For our survival. This is the call. Phoenix Rise." He cut the transmission. The silence that followed was immense. For a long minute, nothing happened. Then, the comms board lit up like a festival. Thousands of signals, hailing, questioning, denying, believing. Traffic control demands, news network inquiries, military commands ordering him to stand down dot, and then a different signal. A tight beam from the Martian surface. It was Su Min from her skimmer. "Well, you've certainly made a mess, Admiral. I'm hearing chatter. A lot of panic, but also some groups answering. Belt miners forming up. A Jovian ice hauler fleet changing course. Another signal, encrypted, but cracked easily by Aria. It was from Commander Hana, still on the Sentinel. The message was text only. Asterisk broadcast received. Convincing some. Others furious. Get to the Lagrange point near Luna. It's neutral ground. Some already gathering. And Park. You are right. Jiho leaned back, the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. The first step was taken. The warning was given. Now, he had to see who would listen. The space around Earth's moon was no longer empty. It was a sprawling, chaotic, and magnificent tapestry of light and metal. 3 months had passed since the broadcast. The Morning Star hung like a dark, angular jewel at the Lagrange point, a silent anchor for the fleet gathering around it. It was not a uniform fleet. That was the first thing anyone noticed. Sleek, gunmetal gray Earth Colonial Authority cruisers floated in precise formations, their flags clean and official. Nearby, in a buzzing cloud, were the ships of the Belt, rugged mineral haulers retrofitted with railguns and laser cutters, their hulls patched and scarred, flying the rough banners of mining guilds. Further out were the bulkier colony vessels from the Jovian moons. Their designs focused on endurance, and a dozen smaller, faster ships from the independent FREHOLDS. It was a parliament of refugees, survivors, and skeptics, all drawn by the terrifying broadcast and the ancient warship at its heart. On the bridge of the Morning Star, Jiho watched them on the main viewer. He still felt like an imposter in the command chair. The dark jumpsuit had been replaced by a simple, dark jacket, but he refused any ornamentation or fake rank pins. The title Admiral was used by others now, a necessary symbol, but it never felt like his own. The door to the bridge slid open. Commander Lee Hanna entered, her Earth Authority uniform still crisp, but a new, subtle patch was on her shoulder, a stylized phoenix rising, adopted by those who had fully committed to the cause. She had become his de facto chief of staff, her organizational skills turning the flood of volunteers and supplies into something resembling order. The final contingent from the Saturn orbitals has arrived, she reported, handing him a data slate. That brings the combined fleet to just over 200 capital-grade vessels and about 400 smaller support and fighter craft. Morale is mixed. Many believe. Many are still afraid. And some are only here because they're more afraid of being left out. It's more than I ever thought would come, Ji-ho admitted. They came because of the ship, a new voice said. Su Min leaned against the doorway, dressed in a practical flight suit. Her skimmer was now docked in the Morning Star's bay, and she commanded a restless squadron of scavenger and racer, ships she called the Dust Devils. They came because the story is true. This big, scary, impossible ship is real. You're just the guy who found it. She is partially correct. Arya's voice filled the room. The Morning Star is a powerful psychological symbol, but the tactical reality is that this fleet remains disparate. Coordination is suboptimal, and the Void Tide's projected window of arrival is now refining. Current analysis suggests first contact within the next 72 hours. A cold silence settled over the bridge. 72 hours. 3 months of frantic preparation, and it came down to 3 days. Are we ready? Ji-ho asked, to no one and everyone. No, Hanna said honestly. But we are here, and we have a plan. Formation Tae-Seok is loaded into all participating battle computers. The Dust Devils will harry their flanks. The Earth Cruisers will form the hammer. The belt ships are the anvil. It's the best we can do. A priority alert chimed, harsh and urgent. The main viewer switched to a long-range sensor display. At the very edge of the system, past the orbit of Neptune, space itself was distorting. It wasn't a ship appearing. It was a patch of stars that seemed to smear and bleed away, replaced by a deep, unnatural darkness. Quantum rupture detected, Arya announced, its tone clinical. Signature matches Void Tide Harvester-class vessel. It is here. The darkness solidified. The Harvester slid into their reality. It was vast, bigger than the Morning Star. It looked less built and more grown, a twisted knot of dark metal and pulsing, sickly green energy channels. It did not hail them. It did not scan them. It simply began to move with a terrible, patient slowness toward the inner system. Toward them, all ships, Ji-ho said, his voice clear on the fleet-wide channel. Assume formation Tae-Seok. This is not a drill. Remember the logs. Remember what they do. We hit them hard, we hit them together, and we do not let that energy beam touch our hulls. For everyone back home, Phoenix rise. A chorus of acknowledgments, ragged and determined, echoed back. The battle was not like the old stories. It was not clean lines and glorious charges. It was chaos and terror. The Harvester ship released smaller, darting craft like metallic piranhas. The Dust Devils soared into them, Su Min's voice a fierce chatter over the comms as their agile ships weaved and struck. Pulling the predators away from the larger vessels. The Earth and belt ships moved, the hammer and the anvil. Particle beams and railgun rounds lanced toward the massive Harvester. Many were absorbed by shimmering energy fields. Some struck the strange hull, causing flares of angry light, but little visible damage. Then the Harvester fired its main weapon. A beam of that same sickly green energy reached out, not at a warship, but at a large Jovian freighter. The beam played over the ship's hull. The metal didn't melt. It flowed, liquidating and streaming back up the beam toward the Harvester. In moments, the entire ship, and everyone on it, was gone. Silently erased, a wave of panic threatened to break the fleet. "Hold the line!" Hana was shouting into the comb, her voice sharp with command. "Target the energy projector. All batteries, focus fire on the weapon array." Ji-ho watched, his fists clenched. They were losing. They were just giving it more material. Arya, the Morning Star's main weapon. The quantum arc cannon. Will it work? The cannon disrupts molecular bonds at a quantum level. It is the only weapon in our arsenal theorized to bypass their absorption shields. However, it requires a full power charge from the main core. We will be defenseless for 45 seconds after firing. 45 seconds. An eternity in a battle. Do it, Ji-ho said. The Morning Star thrummed with a deep gathering power. Lights across the bridge dimmed. On the hull, massive plates slid aside, revealing a cavernous emitter. The Harvester seemed to sense the threat. It turned, ignoring the other ships, and began to charge its own green beam, aiming directly at the Morning Star. "Cannon at 90% charge," Arya reported. The enemy beam glowed brighter. All ships. Ji-ho yelled, "Protect the Morning Star, now." It was Su-min who reacted first. Her squadron of dust devils, nimble and fast, shot into the path of the charging beam. They didn't have the power to stop it, but they could block it. One by one, she led her pilots on a suicidal run, their ships dissolving into the green light, buying precious seconds with their lives. The Earth and Belt ships poured everything they had into the Harvester's weapon array, trying to disrupt its aim. "Charge complete," Arya said. "Fire." A silent, brilliant lance of pure white energy, threaded with twisting blue quantum light, shot from the Morning Star. It did not burn. It unmade. Where it struck the Harvester's main projector, the alien metal didn't just break. It ceased to exist in a flash of null energy. The effect rippled outward, a spreading wave of dissolution across a quarter of the massive ship. The green beam died. The Harvester shuddered, vast sections of its structure blinking into nothingness. But the Morning Star was now dark and drifting. Its power core drained. The wounded Harvester, crippled but not dead, turned its remaining weapons on the helpless dreadnought. It was moving in for the kill. Then from the side, the ECA cruiser Sentinel, Commander Hana's ship, powered its engines to maximum and rammed itself directly into the Harvester's breach. The explosion was colossal, a final, fiery punctuation that shattered the remaining structure of the alien vessel. Silence, filled only with static and debris, settled over the battlefield. On the bridge of the Morning Star, auxiliary power flickered on. The viewer showed the expanding cloud of wreckage. The human fleet, battered and diminished, but still there, still whole. Reports began to filter in. Losses were heavy. Su-min was alive, her ship crippled, but her voice still cursing over the comms. Hana had evacuated the Sentinel before the ramming. She was safe on a transport. They had won. This time, Ji-ho looked out at the surviving ships, at the faces of the crew on his bridge-smudged, tired but alive. The void tide had returned, and humanity, for the first time, had fought back. Not as separate colonies or nations, but as one. He opened the fleet-wide channel once more, his voice quiet but carrying to every ear. "The Harvester is destroyed. The first battle is over." He paused, taking in the view of their patchwork, glorious fleet. But it was only the first. Admiral Tae-Siak's war is now ours. Stay together. Watch the skies. and keep building. This is just the beginning. He was no longer the scavenger in the desert. He was the admiral of the Phoenix fleet, and they were ready.